Hello everybody, this is Alex Carnifex. Every single man in Canada planning on having a wife and kids needs to see this video so they are aware of the dangers and consequences of having children or getting married in this day and age. This man named Dave Foley, featured on Joe Rogan's podcast, went through what most successful men go through during a divorce with kids in the mix and disgusting and vile, sick anti-male court of law. Listen to this man talk about his divorce and his children. I have a lot to say, so watch this horror show to the very end for my lovely commentary.
Well, she was very odd, and the first season you guys were together, and then I believe by the second season it was over.
Yeah, we split up.
Yeah, and so she started, what she would do is spend all Dave's money. So Dave would be working, and she would spend all Dave's money. I mean, buy crazy expensive furniture, fly all around the world all the time. So whenever Dave wanted to see his kids, he used to have to get malaria shots. The malaria medication, you become a psychotic. Right. It's a very common effect, especially apparently when you mix it with alcohol.
Yeah. Well, and then you add to that having made 2 trips to Africa in a month.
Yes. Africa to see his kids.
Like I had to fly to Morocco at Thanksgiving, and so we had 2 weeks off. So I flew to and this again, and when we first separated, she took the kids. I would say we had like a Somerset mom divorce, where it was like, I need to take the children to the continent and gather my thoughts. So she like traveled through Europe with, you know, a 6-month-old baby and a 2.5-year-old for 6 months.
Oh
and then Thanksgiving they were in Morocco, so I had to go meet them in Morocco. So I get to spend 10 days in Morocco, then another 24 hours flying back, and then 2 weeks later we get our Christmas break, so I have to fly to Zimbabwe.
Oh my god!
And
there was nothing you could have done, like taking your money and like, hey, I'm giving it to Joe or something like that.
No, it was like
you owe money.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, you have to. You're responsible for taking care of their well-being.
Well, at the time when I made her get into therapy, she's like I forced her to get into couples therapy because I was miserable, and so since we got, I said let's go to therapy. She said, well, I got to go first. And, all right, you can go see the therapist.
Set the traps.
Yeah. So she goes in and explains to the therapist that I'm an abusive husband. You know, and then she starts phoning. She accused me of being physically abusive.
Whoa.
And then she starts like phoning my family and friends and saying that I'm physically abusive.
Wow. Okay, it's complete fabrications, right? So she's just creating stories.
A good friend of mine, Steve Hibbert, when he heard this, said that's crazy. If Dave was abusive, she would be dead. You know, but then I go into therapy, and the therapist goes, you know, who is prepared for this abusive husband to walk in, and she goes, and she explained to me later. She said it was very weird because you walked in and you didn't match the description of you at all. And she said when you walked in, and I saw you 2 together, I immediately realized that if anyone in this couple was abused, it was me.
Did the therapist say this to her?
I don't know if she ever said it to her in therapy.
Did you have a one-on-one with the therapist?
I had one-on-one with her. Yeah, we both saw her individually and together. And then after about 6 months of therapy, my wife, when I thought things were starting to get better, because I was able to do things like go CD shopping with Steve, without that being a huge fight when I got home, you know.
Wow.
So that was like, I thought, oh, I'm a little bit of freedom here. I can go out and hang out with my friends for a little bit without there being a huge fight. And but then, you know, like she was diagnosed as having borderline personality disorder by our
therapist. What does that exactly mean? Why is it borderline personality disorder?
Well, it's a misnomer, really.
I don't like it.
They used to think it was because it was a condition that bordered on being psychotic. And now they know that isn't the condition. It's not anything to do with psychosis, but the name is stuck.
My problem with the name is when you say borderline personality disorder. Do you have a fucking personality disorder or not?
Yeah.
What is borderline? You're kind of weird.
Kind of.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Because in fact, borderlines, a lot of therapists won't even treat them because they think they're just impossible to treat and that they're horrible people to deal with. You know, that they're incredibly dishonest. They're pathological liars.
How do you define it, though? How can you define certain sets of mental illness? I mean, are there tests that they do? Is it a judgment call?
There's like, was it the DSM? Is that what it's called? The Diagnostic Standards Manual? Or something like that. And it's got like a checklist. And if you score a certain number on the checklist, they go, that's a diagnosis. And I think she had like 9 out of 10. On the checklist for borderline.
Was she always this way, or did she change?
No, she was always that way. She was
really?
Yeah, like basically as soon as we became a couple, like before we were a couple, she was like, before she was my best friend's girlfriend.
Oh,
you know,
that's karma, son.
Yeah,
that's what happened.
You know,
you got hooked up with karma.
Yeah, and so it was like one of those things where it was like,
did she break up with him first and then go out with you, or you guys?
No, it was like one of those things where I sort of said, look, we should stop hanging out so much because I'm,
feeling bad about it.
Again, I was like 20 years old, and at that point, kind of lonely and desperate. And said, look, I've got these feelings and we should stop hanging out together alone.
Really? You actually said I have these feelings and we should stop hanging out?
And her reaction to that was she just showed me her tits and started kissing me. So I was like, oh, all right. Well, I tried.
You did give it your best. So what happens then? You go to the buddy and go, hey, bro, I got a your girlfriend.
Yeah, well, I tried to cool it, tried to get out of it, and I even was out of town for a while, and it wasn't until she and I hooked up, like, because again, as soon as we hooked, because borderlines, when they love you, you're the most beautiful, perfect thing in the world, but then after that, like, if anything is wrong, then you suddenly become the most evil, dark, horrible thing in the world, and they can't see the two at the same time. They can't see your flaws and your virtues at the same time.
Wow, I think I've dated somebody.
You dated every girl you've ever dated.
This is like, man, I need to write this. Yeah, but it was also just like this, where when it went down, it was on or off. It was no like, it's down, maybe we can work through this. It was just. That's
one of the key signals of a borderline. Is that they say it's the inability to recognize the good and bad in the same person.
Wow.
So you can shift from being the most evil person to the greatest person.
100%.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So with my first wife, before we were a couple, when it was just, illicit, when it was like these secret feelings, and when we were friends, I was the greatest guy on earth, and she made me feel like I was the greatest guy on earth.
So you thought, this is the perfect woman for me.
Yeah.
She's with my friend.
But we have more in common than they do.
Right, of course. Yeah.
And then, but as soon as we became a couple, first thing that, like, sex gone immediately.
Whoa.
Like, we didn't have sex for 11 years. We were together 11 years, and we'd have sex maybe once a year.
Oh my God.
How did you have 2 kids?
Once a year.
Wow.
Really?
I have very motile sperm.
Holy shit.
Yeah, we had kids because she decided she wanted to get pregnant. And even at that point, I thought, oh, well, at least we'll get laid.
Oh my God.
And, but
Dave, where were your friends while this was all going on?
Well, what do men friends always do?
It depends on the men friends.
They never say anything. They just sit there and quietly hate her.
Not me, man.
Yeah.
I've learned from the Phil Hartman experience. I tell people.
Yeah.
And whenever I think that my friend's in a bad situation, I will pull them aside. Yeah. I've offered.
Which is the risk you should take for a friend.
Yeah. I've had a friend stay at my house. Duncan stayed at my house for a few months after he got out.
Yeah.
You gotta tell people, like, bro, this is you're stuck, and you think for some reason or other this person is a part of your life. They are not. This is a show that you're tuning into that you can shut off.
Yeah.
Okay.
And for me, it was like there's a lot of guilt about how we started.
Of course.
And then eventually, I'm almost as crazy as she is after 11 years of no fucking. Your brain doesn't function properly. And it's also 11 years of like twice a month suicide threats.
Oh God.
Oh
my God.
And then, I got to the point where I was so crazy. I thought, well, man, at least if we have a kid, if we have a kid, she won't kill herself when I leave, And literally, that's how crazy
oh my God.
Within less than a month after my son was born, out of nowhere, she goes, I've been thinking about it, and I think if you left me, even with the baby, I would still kill myself. Like, she could read my mind.
Whoa, I've been thinking about it.
Yeah.
Holy
shit. He was like, oh, really? Well, at that time, I was like, when Tabitha and I split up, she was going through about 50 grand a month. And that was before we had like a separation agreement.
$500,000 a year.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Running, spending it, and you have to make $1 million to spend $500,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
That would have been so fun, though.
She was renovating the house constantly.
What, to be her?
To be her.
Yeah.
She's crazy, though.
Well, she had the backyard re-landscaped twice because she decided she didn't like where the koi pond was.
Oh my god.
You know, that's
nice.
You know what? You can't really raise a child in a healthy home without a koi pond.
Was that her argument?
You know, that's her argument. It was all for the kids. Yeah, the kids need a koi pond.
Kids need to go to Morocco.
Yeah.
And worry about getting bitten by poisonous insects.
Yeah, she turned like the third. She kept renovating this house, like at least spent like another like $500,000 renovating a fully renovated house.
God. Well, this is why I brought this up. So I ran into you on Twitter. I saw you on Twitter, and one of the first things I saw you on Twitter was you talking about how you had just gotten the court had just told you have to pay 3 times your monthly salary in alimony.
Yeah, and it's 2 times what I would say is an average, because a lot of months I don't have a salary. They ordered, I had to pay $17,700 a month, or go to jail for 10 days any month that I'm late, without warning. That was the judge's ruling.
Jail for 10 days. So do you have to be exported to Canada? Is that what happened?
Well, that's the thing. I'm here, so...
So do you just say, "F you, I live here now"?
I just stay here, but I can't risk going back to Canada
because you'll go to jail.
Yeah.
Whoa. So
unless I've come up with $17,700, which in a month where I haven't earned anything is a little hard to.
That.
So how much are you sending over there? Are you trying to
whatever
you can?
Yeah, like I sent $5,000 this past month, and
does she go crazy?
$20,000 in November.
Does she go crazy and yell at you like you need more and I need more?
Well, she hasn't talked to me directly, you know.
Really?
It's all through lawyers. But again, they were trying through this organization called the FRO, the Family Responsibility Office in Ontario. This legal office is really responsible for hounding a lot of men to their death. Like there's a real problem with like people committing suicide after being prosecuted by these people, and they were trying to get me, like in November I was sitting in a court in like November 20th, I guess, sitting in court and thinking at the end of that day I might go to jail for 6 months. They were pushing for me to go to jail for 6 months. This is what the FRO was asking: 6-month jail sentence if I didn't come up with $500,000 that day, and an additional 30 days for every month I didn't come up with the money.
Oh my God.
So, and I was sitting there going, well, the judge, if he goes for it,
you're in jail for life.
They'll cuff me there that day, take me to jail.
Oh my God.
And I'll go to jail for 6 months. At the end of 6 months, they'll say, you know, well, do you have the $500,000? And plus the ongoing money that would accrue over the 6 months. And I'd say, no, I've been in jail for 6 months. How was I supposed to earn any money? All right, that's another 30 days. At the end of that 30 days, you got the money? No, I've been in jail.
So it's essentially a life sentence unless someone gives you $500,000.
Yeah.
How much longer do you have for this?
Well, it's unending until I pay off the arrears that I owe.
Right.
You know, and
that's crazy money.
And then till the kids are 22 if they stay in school. So, and the money just keeps adding up, and
I'm chopping off tonight.
Yeah, like I mean,
just don't marry a Canadian chick.
Yeah, I mean, in order to pay $17,700, I have to earn about $40,000 in a month just to pay that. Just with 20% commission, 35% tax bracket. So I got to earn $40,000 just to have $0, and it's just
this all goes to someone you hate.
Yeah, and who didn't f me for 11 years.
It's hell. That's
crazy ass laws. Now, when you tell them that you don't make that much money anymore, what do they say?
Oh, the judge who made this ruling, because they were asking for the 6 months, right? And the judge kept saying to the FRO attorney, give me another option. Because I'm looking at the financial documents, and I'm seeing where all the money that has come in, I'm seeing where it's all gone. It's all here in these documents. All the money that's come in and where it's all gone. I can see it all in these documents. So I am convinced that there isn't $500,000 for Mr. Foley to come up with today. So if you insist on that ruling, then I would send him to jail, and your client will never see another dime because Mr. Foley's career will be over, and that's it. And he kept saying, give me an option that will get your client some money. And the FRO refused. They said, well, we don't have the authority from our client, my ex-wife, to make any other offer. So for about 2 hours, the judge kept asking them to come up with another.
So all this time, while you're sitting there, you're going, I'm going to jail.
Yeah.
And I might be going to jail essentially forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
What happens?
And going to jail for the crime of not earning $1 million.
Oh my God. So what happens if that actually does happen? I mean, have guys gone in jail with a large sum like that and never come out?
I don't know, but people have definitely gone to jail, and definitely there's a lot of people who have been looking at jail time who have just killed themselves.
Can you get the kids and have them stay with you so that she has to pay you?
It's alimony, bro. It's alimony.
Well, no, this is child support. It's all child support.
This is all child support?
Yeah.
So
whoa,
steal the kids.
$17,000 a month in child support?
Yeah.
Steal the kids.
What the f are your kids eating? $17,000 on
iPhones. Yeah. They're eating iPhones.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
$17,700
a month.
Yeah, I would talk to the kids and be like, hey, come live with me. We'll have a TV show together. I'll get you a podcast, and somehow turn the tables.
Well, yeah. I mean,
get a horse.
Yeah.
I mean, get a couple.
You ever thought about being on the Real House Husbands of Beverly Hills, perhaps? I'm thinking we can get a reality show off the ground.
Right.
Are you willing to marry a Kardashian?
Oh my God! Look. Hey, I can't marry worse than I have.
Yeah, they'd probably be a lot better.
Yeah.
They're not crazy. They're just ambitious.
Yeah.
What's the solution? So you cannot go to Canada and you just send whatever you have, and then you have to constantly deal with legal payments because they're constantly trying to f you and sue you.
Well, I spent like a year and a half literally going to court every single month with lawyers, just basically having to go to court every month just to stay out of jail, to go and have them put it over till the next month. And the lawyers, I mean, people that do family law, a lot of them are really horrible people, and they just make money off misery. And even my own lawyers were just, extending this as far as they could until I ran out of money, and then quit. So when I went to court for this ruling, I didn't have a lawyer because I couldn't afford one.
So you went by yourself.
I was there by myself. Not only was I there by myself, but all of the documents that had been piled up, all of the evidence that had been piled up over the course of a year and a half was sitting in my lawyer's office.
Oh my God. So you had no evidence and no lawyer.
Yeah.
Did you have records? Did you have anything?
I had nothing. I had nothing.
God. So you're just going saying,
there
I have
empty-handed.
nothing, I have no money, this is all I can do.
Yeah, and they're asking me questions about files that have been piling up over a year and a half.
How do they justify?
I don't know. I don't recall. I don't, because I don't,
How do they justify such an exorbitant amount of money?
Because it's as it was explained to me by my lawyers, was that the court's assumption is that the children should continue to live at the level they were at the time of the dissolution of the marriage. So, which is crazy because if we were still married and my income dropped, their lifestyle would change.
Right.
But because we're not married anymore, their lifestyle should never change, no matter what I'm earning. Well, it's that the ruling that was enforced was by another judge named Justice Backhouse. And she's the one who ruled about 3-4 years ago. When I went back to try and get it adjusted, I went to have a hearing to have it adjusted to meet my income. And she ruled against me. And in her ruling, she said my ability to pay was not relevant to my obligation. So it didn't matter to her what I proved my income to be. If my income was zero, she said I was still obligated to pay as though I was earning $1 million.
I know a lot of people saying Joe Rogan, this Dave Foley guy's bumming me.
I feel like crying. I feel like crying.
Well, listen, this is some important. This was my education in relationships and the law regarding relationships as I was growing up. Literally, I mean, when I was on news radio, I was a fresh-faced boy, didn't know jack shit about the world, and this is how I learned about relationships. This is how I learned about the whole gamut from divorce to and murder, suicide.
I know.
I learned it all.
And here you are, happily married.
Yeah, crazy. What are the odds? Figured it out.
Who knew?
I don't know. Got lucky. Got lucky. Could go ugly for me too. I'll be doing your podcast in 5 years.
I would probably seriously just move somewhere, like live on a beach in Jamaica.
Yeah, but he loves his kids. You get to see your kids?
Not now. I can't go to Canada.
So you don't see them at all?
No.
When was the last time you saw them?
Was in November.
Wow. That would drive me nuts.
Last time I went to see my son's play at school. Was the last time I saw him.
And was the chick there? The wife?
No, she wasn't there. Thank God.
So you have no communication with her at all?
No, not in years.
You don't have to pay any more alimony.
No, she didn't seek alimony. She sought
child support.
Because but none of it got to the kids. You know,
it all goes to her.
Yeah, she was getting all this money, and then on top of the child support payment, she was also getting something called Section 7 expenses, which is basically anything she chose to any bills she chose to run up.
What?
So it'd be like $20,000 for summer camp, things like that.
Anything that was for the kids that she chose.
Yeah.
So not just alimony, not just child support, but child support plus.
And then all of her living expenses, like the mortgage and everything, medical expenses, everything.
This makes me sick.
It should make you sick.
Yes, this is sick, and this is why men are going MGTOW in droves. Sadly, most people don't see this as a problem. Psychologically, you killed this man. His wife and kids were most likely his primary purpose of living. So I am glad this dude is living. However, I'm glad this divorced man did not commit suicide, because many do. Look up the statistics for divorced men suicide on Google, and you'll understand the story is not crazy in the sense that this happens all the time. While this specifically happened in Canada, this happens in the United States of America. However, in the USA, most divorces are slightly less awful. If you are a man in Canada and you don't want kids but you like sex and you never want to have kids and you know that for sure, who are you? Are you that type of person? Or if there's any chance that you want kids, then don't do what I'm going to say next, but get a vasectomy. Vasectomy is the only way to ensure you don't ever have to pay child support or deal with parental fraud, specifically in the United States. Yes, you heard me. There is only one way to avoid child support forever. Yes, you heard me. Check out my other video on how to avoid parental fraud or child support forever legally. And yes, this is including all of the parental fraud cases. I made a specific video on this. I want you to check it out, and I'll link it down below, or just look through my channel, because it is disgusting. Parents are going to jail, or not even parents, men are just going to jail for kids who are not even theirs. There's a way to avoid that, and I'll get into that later. I don't want to deal with parental fraud in this specific video because I want to talk about this disastrous and sick story that this guy had to deal with, sadly. Keep in mind, he was paying child support, but that's not even including taxes. I don't know what the Canadian taxes are. I do know what the U.S. taxes are, and they're extraordinarily high. Gas taxes, sales taxes, federal income taxes could be even 39%, 40%. State taxes, sales taxes, all that. Basically, could be around 60%. In some cases, alimony costs around 50% of your 40% left over. That's not including the child support. However, this is specifically in the United States of America. Canada is a whole different monster. I mean, geez. You want to talk about an anti-male court? Imagine paying 60% of your income in taxes, because the tax deductions don't do that much. And this is total. A lot of people are dumb and they only include federal taxes. I'm talking about all the taxes. Child support, 20% of, the 40%, 50% of that 40% through alimony. You might as well just work at a Chinese sweatshop. Oh, and this is also not to count the fact that inflation, the collapse of the dollar as you get older, all your money is worth less and less. Yeah, if I wanted to go ahead and lose all my money, I think a much more efficient way to do that would be to rent a private jet and throw it all out the window. But I guess if you're knee deep into sadomasochism and you really want to get married and have children in this day and age and suffer, then you wouldn't have the luxury of going to jail if you didn't pay. Whereas if you just threw your money out of a private jet, you wouldn't really have the cage to be locked in. But most Americans are in prison regardless, so it doesn't really make a difference. With or without the bars, it's kind of irrelevant. You know, the epitome of insanity and gender inequality and just a collective lack of care from society. And that's part of the reason why this story should make you sick, because in a normal world this would be on the front page everywhere talking about, hey, we need to change the system. Just understand that yeah, young men, take notes. Society does not care about you at all. You have to care about you. Live for the ones who care about you. In other words, care about yourself above all else. I am Alex Carnifex, and I am out. Hope you enjoyed the video, and subscribe to my channel for some more amazing content. And yeah.
Bucks, you'll be happier than a guy on his wedding day.
Thanks, everyone. Goodbye, Mom. Goodbye, Dad. Goodbye, friends. Goodbye, free time. Farewell, sex. So long, golf on TV. I'll miss you, privacy. Goodbye, being honest about how many beers I've had. Nice knowing you, my own choices. See you later, money.
Being married is like living with a crazier version of your own mother, who you also have to have sex with. The best part about being married is leaving for work in the morning.
It turns you into a dishonest person. If you want to sneak around for the rest of your life, then by all means, get married.
When I met her, she said she hated her mother. 4 years later, I can't spend a weekend without that old bitch in my house.
My wife ran out of good stories on the third date. And I've been talking to that woman for 35 years.
She ends every conversation with a passive-aggressive statement like, well, I guess you just don't want me to go with you. You're right. I don't.
Back in high school, I thought I'd never want to be with anyone but her. But I also thought 311 was a good bet.
When I first met my wife, she had a nice big set of round tits. And 12 years later, they hang below her belly button, and she doesn't understand why I'd rather masturbate.
I've studied every case where a husband has murdered his wife.
At this point in the relationship, I would rather make love to a roast beef sandwich.
And if I did kill her, I'm pretty sure I could get away with it.
I can't even remember wanting to look at my wife's naked body.
My wife wants me to pay for her to go back to school to become a nutritionist. A nutritionist. Is that even a real thing?
She's always saying she's my best friend. But what she really wants is to be my only friend. And that's why she's a shitty person. I constantly fantasize about a Phil Hartman murder-suicide scenario, but one where I survive and wind up dating 24-year-olds for the rest of my life.
My wife thinks an hour a week of yoga is going to keep her body from going to shit. Sure, I don't look as good as I used to either, but that's not my job.
The only reason I even listen to her anymore is so I can make her look stupid when she asks, are you even listening to me?
Marrying someone means always putting them above yourself. I don't want to put anyone above myself.
We both want a divorce, but neither of us wants the kid full-time. I don't know how she gave birth to such an asshole.
You know how she never shuts up about shit you don't care about? Yeah, that'll get way better in 40 years.
I don't care what your sexual orientation is. Marriage is terrible.
It gets worse. Way
Worse.
Oh, no, 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 no.